you're wondering where to start on the home buying journey, trust me, you're not alone. I am the producer and editor of the How to Buy a Home podcast, and I've personally edited over 100 episodes of this podcast. And recently, it's got me thinking about 3 things that I wish I would have started sooner to help me on my home buying journey. Because as you're going to find out, some things just take a little bit more time than others. And as I listen to interview after interview, these are the things that I find myself wishing I had started a few years ago. So if you're just getting started, I would hop on these right now. And if you're wondering where to start now, here are a couple suggestions of where you can get started right now.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
All right, hello, and welcome to the How to Buy a Home podcast. So as I mentioned, I am not David Sidoni. I am JT Hazard, the creative director of How to Buy a Home. And recently we've had some really interesting episodes that have got me thinking about my home buying journey. So I shared with you guys in episode 274 why I'm not buying a home right now and what are my personal hangups. The quick summary of that is I have a lot of student loans, not the regular amount of student loans. Student loans by themselves are typically not a deterrent. The reason they're affecting me is because they've thrown my debt to income ratio out of balance. And so because of that, I have to work on paying those down along with some other credit card debt to fix that DTI so I can apply for the right types of home loans. However, along the way, it's got me thinking about something David talks about all the time, which is, man, I wish I started this process sooner. So another quick summary about my financial situation, because everybody's different. I'm an independent contractor. I have been for a long time. I've worked in music video production, film production in general, and these are typically not W-2 jobs. And I'm considered self-employed. My wife works as a W-2 employee for Disney, but that being said, our finances are a little bit more complicated than a traditional setup. So as a self-employed person, I have to really have my financials locked in. And because of that, there are 3 things that I wish I had done earlier to improve my situation now. And those are improving my credit, automating my savings, and practicing the payment of a mortgage. So let's talk about these topics. All right, first, improving my credit. Now, this one, I'm sure all of you, or at least most of you, would want to do. Personally, I did not start building credit early enough. So that would be the first thing I wish I had done properly to begin with. The first piece of credit that I ever had was I bought a mattress. And it was okay because I wasn't able to apply for a lot of different credit cards. Like I said, I didn't have the right job history. I just was not able to get in on good credit opportunities early. So I bought a mattress and that did okay for my credit. But after the few months of payments, that account was closed. And ultimately, it didn't really do much for me. I was paying interest. It may have been a small boost, but ultimately it's not the high quality types of credit that I wish I had started early. A few options to start with are secured credit cards. So this is where you can actually pay money to a credit company and you're essentially using your own credit on this card. They report to credit bureaus and it's a better way to build credit than just a store card or payments. With store cards, you're going to have really high interest rates. So that was my second credit card. I got a Home Depot credit card and I used that for production costs and I was not good about paying it off. So now I'm battling the interest payments and now that all of my student loan payments, as I said, have caught up with me, I don't have the best amount of money to pay off those cards in large volume. So I'm not able to really pay that debt down significantly each month. I'm sort of taking the slow snowball method where when I get the extra cash, I paid a little bit more to one card. And over time, that's going to bring down my DTI. If I had done this earlier, what I would have done first and foremost, it's a tip that we talk about all the time, authorized user. So I'm lucky enough to have my dad who has a really great credit score and he protects that thing like it's his child. Wait, I'm his child. Well, okay. His credit's a little more important at the moment. So what this means, the authorized user, if you haven't heard about it on the show before, this is basically saying that you're authorized to use someone's credit account with a specific bank or card. So you get added to their account but with none of the qualification requirements. It does mean that any decision you make with that card carries over to the account holder. So if you get the card and you go on a shopping spree and can't pay it back, that's going to hurt the account holder more than it's going to hurt you, because you actually get the entire history of that card added to your account. So let's say you don't have great credit, or let's say you have my credit limit was high. That was a big problem. When my dad added me as an authorized user to one of his oldest cards, two things happened. My credit limit shot up, or my available credit limit shot up far higher than I have ever been approved for. And my credit history went back all the way to 2004, because that's when he opened the card. The only thing that you have to do in this situation is not use that card. Whoever gives you the authorized user, you tell them, keep the card. I never want to see it. Because if you use that card, it acts like an account that you're on, but it will also hurt the account holder if you can't pay that back. So the best way to do it is get a card that's in good standing, that's either used for a very low monthly amount below its credit limit or not used at all, and get added as an authorized user. That extends your credit history and ups your credit limit. The next thing I would have done after having that on my account for a couple months, I would have looked for those higher quality credit card opportunities. So something from a reputable bank or some creditor that is well reputable and established. And then I would have only put things like monthly bills, subscriptions, things that are they're like a fixed amount, okay, that I know I'm going to have that money. I can plan for it every month, and I can automate that payment to make sure it's paid off correctly. When it comes to improving my credit, this is what I wish I would have done about 5 years ago. Maybe if you're 18 or just going into college, or if you're just coming out of college, here's the takeaways. Ask if there's someone in your life that can add you as an authorized user. Okay, if you can do that, wait a couple months to let it hit your credit report, and then look for something from maybe Chase Bank or one of the other reputable sources and get a low amount of, subscriptions or some small fixed amount of money. Put that on the card, automate the payment to make sure you're paying that off every month, and then just let that run on autopilot. If you don't have an authorized user, then I would look for what's called a secured credit card. I don't want to recommend any here because I haven't done these myself. I've heard them from other people, but I want to let you know what it's called. Secured credit card. You save up a certain amount of money. It's usually minimum about $500. You pay that to the card. There's even ones that work just like a regular Visa credit card. And you essentially use your own money as credit, and it reports positively to the bureaus. Okay? You pay it off every month, just like a credit card, but you're using your own money to start building credit. And the last piece of credit advice is that you can actually report your rent to the credit bureaus. So if you look in the show notes, we're going to have some links to trusted resources that will help you do this. But this one is a no-brainer. Normally, your rent does not report to your credit, but if you're paying your rent anyway, might as well go ahead and just get that reporting onto your credit so you can start building something. I wish I had done that when I started paying rent way back when. Moving on to automate my savings. This is more of a why is this important thing. When you have a W-2, you can assign a certain percentage of your monthly income to different accounts. So when I got my first job, I wish I would have taken this opportunity and done that immediately. Okay. But at the time, I was just, the first W-2 job that I had, I worked for Macy's for about 8 months. And I wish I had just decided to put money in a savings account at the very beginning to get used to that mentality, right? Living paycheck to paycheck is very difficult, but there usually is a way to put a little bit, just a little bit of money away into savings for emergencies, for things that you need long term. And being able to set your monthly budget. If you're not great at budgeting, like I'm not the best at budgeting. If you have the practice of automating your savings, then that means that what you're allowing yourself to use each month is already going to incorporate a little bit saved in a reserve. And that's really going to help you long term, especially if you're trying to do something like buy a house. It shouldn't be something that you think about doing every month, right? You don't want that temptation You don't want that math error, whatever it is. You want to find a way to automate. So for me, now that I don't have a W-2 job, I bank with SoFi Bank. I really enjoy them because they do something with their savings accounts called vaults. First of all, their savings account are typically a high yield. I have about a 3.8% on my savings account. Within your savings account, you can create vaults. And this really helps me because I can't necessarily automate my savings. So I treat it like payments I have to make every month to specific things. I have a vault for my dog bills. I have a vault for my rent. I have a vault for my reoccurring bills. And so whenever I get paid, those bills might not be up yet, right? I may have a bill on the 15th and I might be getting paid on the 1st. So what I do is I make that payment as soon as I get the money to the vault. And because it's contained in my savings account, I still get the 3.8% percentage rate across my entire savings account, but it's locked away in my vault and it can't be used for anything. And I've mentally compartmentalized that money into where it's going to go at some point throughout the month. The next part of that is if you can't fully automate this, then use things like calendars, reminders, all of the tools that we have walking around in our pockets every day to remind yourself to either check on these or act on these, right? So that can be a form of automated. If you're reminding yourself, hey, check in, put some money in savings, put money in this account, you're actually taking control of your financial situation. And I really wish I had done this sooner. It would put me in a lot better mindset to make a big purchase, like if you need to buy a new car, or of course, like we're talking about here, buy a home. The automate your savings thing seems like it's something you can, I don't have to automate it. I'll just handle it myself. You definitely want some level of consistency in this habit, right? Because that's what we're really doing. We're building habits and you need consistency. A lot of things in the world of finances are measured by your ability to stay consistent. So if you're able to build that habit with yourself, it's just going to make things easier long term. So the takeaway here is either set any amount that you can aside from your W-2, right? You can ask them, you can ask your employer to update your employment forms and maybe set up a savings account or set up a dedicated account specifically for you not to touch. I know David suggested that a lot of times. If you don't have a W-2 job, then automate could mean set reminders, set calendar days. When you get paid, set specific amounts that you know you can put away each month. Maybe that's your version of automating, is saying, I know that I need to make a bill to myself for $50 every time I get paid, or $100 every time I get paid. Okay, that's a great suggestion that I've heard on the podcast. It's a bill to yourself. All right, now we're going to move on to the big linchpin in my experience of how I'm preparing to buy a home. It's kind of like automating your savings, but ultimately it's really specific to your home and dwelling payment. What practicing your payment means is you're setting yourself up for a mortgage payment. Typically, mortgage payments are going to be a little bit more than your current rent. Sometimes a lot more than your current rent, depending on what your situation is. I live in California, so my payment is already high, and a mortgage payment is going to be higher. And where I live right now, it's not feasible for me to get a mortgage payment with my current DTI, which is debt to income ratio again. That being said, I can work my way up to that payment amount. So practicing your payment means you're going to pay more to your, whatever if you save or if you have a joint account with your partner that you use for rent, whatever it is, you're going to set more aside than your actual rent. Again, I know not everybody is in a position to do this. I pretty much live paycheck to paycheck minus my savings and my debt resolution stuff that I'm working on. But being able to work my way up to that mortgage payment is one of the only ways I'm going to be able to prepare myself long-term to buy a home. So my rent right now is $2,400 a month. I get paid once a week being a contractor. I split that up, $600 a week, I would be at $2,400, right? Well, so what I do is I actually pay into my rent vault in my bank, my rent savings account, $800 every week. Now, there are times when I can't do that. I have a couple extra bills. My dog is he's 15 years old. He's got a lot of vet bills at the moment. So sometimes I can't do that. And that's the nice thing about the practicing of your payment, right? When you're practicing something, you don't always get it right 100% of the time. But it lets you know where you're at. So my goal every month, instead of paying $2,400 a month, my goal is actually to pay $3,200 a month, right? And that actually puts me a lot closer towards the mortgage payments that I'm going to have to make in the future. So by doing that, not only do I give myself some peace of mind because after 3 weeks, I have my rent instead of 4 weeks, right? So after 6 weeks, right, which is less than 2 months, I actually have 2 months of rent saved up. So not only is it just good to practice in terms of future home buying, but in the moment, it gives me a lot of peace of mind because it's like, okay, that's taken care of, right? I have some buffer. And it's honestly getting the advice from this podcast. Again, I've edited about 100 episodes of this. I'm really just trying to surmise some of the best tips I've gotten. I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your life. I mean, obviously you're here, so you're trying to buy a home. But this is single-handedly one of the greatest pieces of practical advice I've heard on the podcast. It gives you relief as a renter pretty much immediately, right? You might feel it initially like, oh, I'm paying more than my rent actually is. Well, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. I want to go out. I want to have fun. I want to go do this stuff, right? But after that 6 weeks and you're like, man, I got a month extra of rent banked. I'm set. It starts to feel really, really good. And now your savings account is growing. And so not only can you have flexibility with that because now maybe that's something you could use for a down payment or use to pay down extra debt options, right? You have options. That's the biggest thing, right? You want options. If you're like me, you're probably, if you've listened to a couple episodes of this and you're like, okay, this is cool, but I don't know what I can do. This is not my situation. Having options is how you're going to get started, right? Because you might not feel like you have options. And it's so demoralizing to be in that situation and just say, there's no way I can do this, right? The biggest theme of this episode is that I wish I had done these sooner, but you can start doing them now. This stuff takes time. That's why I wish I had done it 5 years ago, but I didn't. So now you just got to ask yourself, is this something I'm capable of doing now? Or am I okay making the decision to keep doing what I've been doing, which will keep me in the same spot that I'm in currently? Are you happy there? Maybe you're renting for a really, really low amount. I got a buddy who pays $1,100 in rent. It's really hard to say to him, yeah, up that payment and, buy a home. Now, when we started talking about the power of equity and the fact that that's actually money that he could get back in 5 years if he decides to move, even though he's paying a small amount in rent, if he decided to live there for 5 years and he wants to pay a little bit more money every single month into equity, when he's ready to sell that home, he gets some of that back and he can go move where he wants to. And now he has some savings to either put money down on a place to rent, see if he likes, living in this new place, or maybe he could use that as a down payment on a home in a different state, whatever he wants to do. When we started talking about those options, he definitely was more interested. But still, if you're paying a very low amount of money for rent and your lifestyle factors, you care more about what you're able to do month to month, more power to you. But if you're listening to these episodes or you're figuring out which episode you should listen to and you started with this one, in which case, thank you. Nice to meet you. If you're looking for something to start with, I would say work on these 3 things. You can go to the starter kit in the podcast. It starts at episode 301, and that will give you much more in-depth detail on how to get going with all this stuff. And then episode, I think 303 starts on the credit and moves into debt with future episodes. But if I had started these 3 things even 2 years ago when I had gotten into this job, I would be in a much different place today. I just did not think I was ready. I did not think this podcast was for someone like me. And after literally hundreds of episodes, I finally realized, you know what? I think maybe I can do this. All right. And for the regular homies, you guys know this is how we kind of end episodes. You can do this. We'll get there, but I'm not done yet. I want to give a shout out to a couple episodes that we've done recently. They're a little more unique, and I personally find them very interesting. So if you haven't heard these episodes, give them a listen if you're interested. The first is a moving tips and tricks series with Mariette Fry. She's actually got a podcast called Moving Tips and Tricks. But she was a guest on 2 episodes. The first is just really practical tips on how to move. So regardless of if you're buying a home or if you're renting or if you're whatever it is, it's the literally how to psychologically approach moving so that you're not overwhelmed. She's got like a whole framework. She's done this like 19 times in the past 20 years herself. And she has like a whole business consulting and helping people move and figuring out the best way to reduce stress during that process. It's so helpful. Very cool. But it's the second episode in that series, which is called Moving Scams, How to Avoid the Moving Mafia. I had no idea, but there's literally like a crime ring of people. And I'm not just talking a couple extra $100 on your moving fee. I'm talking holding your stuff hostage, disappearing with your stuff altogether. There's literally a department of the FBI that is designed to handle these cases. So that is episode 337. Highly recommend taking a listen to that one because yeah, who knew? The audio quality is a little bit intense. There was an issue with one of the microphones, so it's a little hot. I hope you guys can at least take the information because I was shocked. I had no idea. So definitely check that one out. Very important. The other one, if you're a little further along in this process and you're looking for maybe a lender or just want more information on that, we actually did an interview with one of our lending partners, actually our only national lending partner. And just so you know, it's not like we're trying to push you into using them as a lender. It's that out of all the people that we talk to who try to get a little piece of our business, this is someone who I've actually met her myself. She has the same sensibility about helping first-time homebuyers as David. And she's so sweet and so kind and genuinely just wants to inform people on the best way to do this. And so there's a 2-part series with her. That's episode 339 and 340. She really goes into depth, not saying you got to go use her, but use this as an example of what it's like to actually work with a trusted lender. She's absolutely dedicated to education. And if that's not the experience that you're getting as you're looking for options, that should be the red flag of, it shouldn't just be an order takers, what she says. So those are great informative episodes. Like I said, you can also check out the starter kit, starts at 301. And with that, just remember, even though you haven't already started these things, or maybe you are ahead of me and you've started them way before I did, remember, you just got to take some action. And then 3 months in the future, look where you came from and realize you can do this. Okay, that's the end now.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyaHome.com to get started.